What's up? Good to see you guys. Hey, welcome to this month's Inner Circle. Now, I got to tell you, our special guest today is going to blow your mind, absolutely blow your mind on the entrepreneurial mindset, how to make progress and keep moving forward as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. His name is Louis Massaro, and I cannot wait for you to meet him. I'm going to tell you a little more about him, but I got to tell you, he's live. I'm not. I'm recording this the day before because right now I am taking a vacation with my family. So as you're watching this, I'm literally on a plane with my wife and my 4 kids. We don't get away much, but we are. But of course, how could I not open our monthly Inner Circle for you? So first off, if you're new to our family, welcome. These Inner Circles, I've been doing these for over a decade now, and they're so awesome. We do them every single month, and I want to pack in the things and share with you the mindset, the momentum, or the marketing strategies that propel you moving forward. Some of you have been with us for almost a decade. Good to see you. Those of you brand new, welcome to this amazing family. Everybody, invite them on the chat. I'm looking because this is where the chat will be rolling like crazy for Louis here in a moment. And make sure you are using GG. If you're here, you're a part of mastermind.com. GG, our artificial intelligence, your AI assistant, is getting smarter every single day. We are upgrading in the background. We're adding more Tony and Dean content. She is thinking, acting, helping better than anything I ever could have imagined. Could you have imagined 3 years ago that we could have a tool that can help you go so fast? We have a brand new course this month from Louis. The gentleman's going to join you here in a moment and answer your top questions. Thank you guys for sending in your questions because this guy is so good, and you're going to enjoy this so much. I just want to tell you a quick little story about Louis before I bring him out. Louis is someone who had a business and decided to go into the self-education industry, the one that you're all in, and sell what he knows. And he helped people in the moving industry. And he grew an amazing business, ended up exiting from a part of his business. And this is a gentleman who I don't take many I don't consult much anymore. I just say no. There's just not enough time. But this guy, I met him on a personal day. My wife and I were in Flagstaff. We ran into him and his wife, and there was just a connection. And then he asked, and Louis was paying me $250,000 a year for me to meet with him once a month. And watching this guy work, watching him take action, watching him listening to something, making it better and go all in, I knew he was just an amazing businessman. And then he exited out of his company, and him and I were still consulting. He's like, not sure what to do next. I'm like, come on in, work with us. So I feel so excited. I'm so honored to have him as a part of the mastermind team. He doesn't need to be here. He wants to be here so we can take everything we do to the next level. And I love having great minds. And today, you get to hear from that mind. So thank you for being a part of Inner Circle. Most of them are with me live. This one, I just happen to be on vacation, but you might like Louis better than me today. It's going to be incredible. To answer your top questions, without further ado, could we please give it up to Louis?
What's up, everybody? Good to see you here today. What's up, Bobby? What's up, Angela, Marie? Good to see you. What's up, Rick? Everybody here, welcome to the Inner Circle. My name is Louis Massaro, and I gotta say, if there's anybody that deserves a vacation for a few days, it is definitely Dean. He is one of the hardest working, most heartfelt individuals I know on this planet. And I remember being in my first Inner Circle meeting, 2017, kind of being where you guys are, watching this stuff, taking it all in, getting out of being in a business, brick and mortar business, a moving business, and transitioning into self-education. And Dean has been such an inspiration along the way. And to be able to be here and be part of this team and help take this to a whole nother level, I mean, I can't think of a better industry to be in than to share what you know, help lift people up, help find shortcuts for those that are trying to do what you once did and create that path for them. So welcome to our Inner Circle this month. I'm honored to be here. I see you guys in the chat. What's up, everybody? Yusuf, Cynthia, Justina, what's up, guys? What's up, Joy? And if you haven't seen it, I've done a course in mastermind.com last month. Anybody see the course, the Entrepreneur's Action Plan here in the... Okay, great. So we've got some questions that came in from that. So we're gonna spend some time today going through these, and they've really kind of brought some of these questions that I think is going to give a really good, in-depth, full scope idea of what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Not only the mechanical aspects of running the business, but the mindset that it takes, because it is a shift, right? To go from kind of either doing your own, working and having a job to now doing your own thing, and then coming into this industry where you're pretty much putting yourself out there, right? The vulnerability of just showing up on camera and saying, hey, I've got something that I could offer you, and asking somebody to buy that from you or sign up for your service or your coaching or your consulting or whatever it is that you do, it takes a lot, right? And it can beat you down. And sometimes we might look at it and say, wow, it might be easier just to have my job, or it might be easier to do the thing that I used to do that I'm comfortable with. And there's one thing I know. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for 24 years. I mean, since I was 19 years old, and it's tough, right? It's like they tell you it's the thing that gives you the freedom that you want. Sometimes you end up losing some of that freedom, right? It's a thing that is going to make all the money. Sometimes you don't make the money right away. And the entrepreneurial mindset around all of these things, and just adapting and adjusting and settling into your groove, is the thing that's going to set you apart, is the thing that's going to get that message out of your heart into the heads and the minds and the souls of the people that you serve, so that you can make your impact. Because can I just see a show of hands? Who's here for impact? Who wants to make an impact in the world? Who wants to make an impact with your clients, for your family, for your future self, right? So we'll have some fun here today. If you guys got some questions, drop them in the chat, but I'm going to go ahead and run on some of these questions we got. So hopefully you guys are here. Elaine said, I loved your training. I'm so left brain, I have trouble because as a creative, I never do the same task the same way. This makes it really hard to create an SOP because nothing is ever standard. Help. Elaine, great question. And I would say, who here has that same kind of struggle? You're like, I'm a creative, I want to be in creative space. Create structure is, outside of my wheelhouse. And here's how I look at that. I feel that when we create structure, when we create systems, that's what allows us the freedom to create that creative sandbox, right? To go and play and explore and think. And so what I like to do is, there's two parts to it, right? I mean, I look at it as you've got to be the CEO of the business, right? Somebody's got to be kind of leading the ship, steering it. Where are we going? Where are we headed? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? And then we've also got to be the creative, right? The creator. What am I going to create for my people? Because you might have a lot of knowledge, but being able to create it in a way that resonates, create it in a way that they understand, create it in a way that creates a progressive approach to getting the results that you're helping them get, that's not always that mechanical, right? And you want to be able to get into that free creative space. And then there's the coach, right? You've got to, whether you're a coach, or you're a consultant, or you're a trainer, whether you run groups, I call it the coach, right? It's like, how do I make sure that I'm influencing and impacting my audience? Because it's not just about standing there and sounding smart and telling people what you know. It's like, no, it needs to resonate, and that takes some creative thinking. Whereas the business aspect, right? How are we generating leads? How are we making sales? How are we handling customer service? What about the finances, the numbers? What could we afford to spend on marketing, right? Also, the personal productivity aspect of it, which is, how do I, as an entrepreneur, nobody's telling you where to go and where to be and what time to be there. And at first that feels like freedom, but then all of a sudden it could feel very restricting because you could feel stuck, right? Which we'll talk about in a little bit. So if we're able to take some of the mechanics of it, right? The business system, and create the structure, create the SOPs, create standardized ways of doing things, and do the same thing with our productivity and create our own structure to where we tell ourselves where to be and what to do, we're able to carve out, I call it the creative sandbox, right? The place where all the stuff that's got to get done, is handled, it's scheduled, it's automated, it's delegated, it's running, right? We want the business to run like a machine. Now you've got the space to go create. You know, one of my favorite ways to create a new lesson, a new training, a new solution to a problem, I literally grab my notebook and a pen and I just start writing, right? What am I trying to solve? What does my audience need to know? And it's not like Elaine said, I never do the same task the same way. And when it comes to just the mechanics of the business, we want to get that automated as much as possible because that's going to allow us to bring on team, right? Help to train them to do things the same way. But now your creative aspect gets to just be free, right? Imagine you had all the mechanics of the business dialed in, and now you've got open space. You know, maybe you've got between morning and noon every day to just work on creative aspects. Go for a walk, right? Sit in a sauna, like whatever wherever it gets your creative juices flowing, whether you're outlining a doc, whether you're going in the notebook, you've got to create both. And I think that right there, for me, when I first got in this space, was the biggest challenge, right? How do I balance CEO and creator? And the way that I was able to do that was just structuring the business stuff and then being an artist and being a creator for the other aspects. So Elaine, I hope that helps. Create yourself your own creative sandbox, but standardize the business. Get that thing dialed in, because what is it really? I mean, it's your way to make an income. It's your way to make an impact. And if things are falling in the cracks, they're not done consistently, you're not gonna do as much of either of those. So, does that resonate with anybody else here today? Somebody else? Okay. We've got to create both. So another question came in. A few people actually were asking about how to organize and store SOPs. So SOPs are standard operating procedures, the processes in your business. We talked about this in the course. If you haven't seen it, go to mastermind.com, watch it. And when we talked about creating SOPs, it's really going back to Elaine's question of like, I don't want to do the same thing the same way twice. And that works as a solopreneur, right? Until it doesn't. And we really want to get to a place, and my belief is that your unique value is not posting your blog. Your unique value is not scheduling your social media. Your unique value is not uploading the replays of your live training, right? There's so much that gets done in the business that if we can create an SOP, a standard operating procedure, a way that we document the steps in what we do, well then we could start to bring on other people, right? And even if you're in a place right now where like, Louis, I don't have the money to hire somebody, it's still really nice when you start developing the roles, the responsibilities, and the processes. For those of you who watch the Entrepreneur's Action Plan, you know what I'm talking about. To be able to actually look and go, wow, I'm actually doing the job of 10 people. Like, no wonder I'm overwhelmed, right? I'm not just wearing one hat, I'm wearing 10 hats. And at the beginning, you've got to do all of that, right? You've got to do it all. You want to learn it all. You need to save the money so you can put the money into marketing and developing your business. But there will come a time, and usually there's no warning, where you're just burnt out, right? And your work starts to suffer, your training starts to suffer, your coaching starts to suffer. You don't want to do it as much as you once did. So when we create these SOPs, it literally, just the act of doing it gives hope of freedom. You're like, oh, wow, that is something I could get off my plate. I just cleared up 20 hours of my week, right? And then you start looking at the cost of hiring a VA, or hiring an intern or an assistant or someone that you could bring on to help with a lot of this stuff. And you weigh that with, wow, yes, that's money out, but I've got to spend a little money to make money. And if I had that 20 hours back, how many more clients could I serve? How many more one-on-ones? How many more group coachings? How many more retreats? How many more, live events? How many more campaigns could I build that are on evergreen to be able to make me more money? So I always look at hiring there's two reasons, right? There's either investment opportunity. I'm going to hire this person. It's going to make me more money right away, right? So a salesperson would be a good example. Or freedom value, right? By hiring this person, it's going to create freedom for myself or someone on my team to move up and work on higher level projects, work on your unique value, your unique gift, the thing that people are paying you for, right? And so when we look at it that way, we're like, okay, well, when I bring these people on, right, if any of you have ever either have a team or have tried to have a team or have worked with a team in the past, it could get frustrating, right? To where I asked them to do it and they just don't do it the right way. And if you want to get something done, you just got to do it yourself. And we retreat from this idea, right? And when you have the SOPs, it really creates something where you now have the confidence to hand something to somebody because you have defined exactly what it is that you want them to do, right? And so if you're, the question was like, where do you store these? How do you create an SOP, right? And the simplest way to do it is like get a piece of paper, get a pen, and just write the steps of something you want done. So let's think about, uploading a video or posting your blog or, getting your podcast up. All these things that maybe have to happen daily or weekly or several times a week. What are those steps? And so you either write the steps down on a document, doesn't have to be paper. I just want to not overcomplicate this. Or what I love to do is I use Loom, L-O-O-M, and you could use any recording service. And if it's something on the computer, which almost everything is these days, it does a screen share of what's on your desktop, and you could talk into it. And literally, when I started my knowledge business, at the beginning, I did everything, right? I had a successful exit in moving. I could have hired a team, but the same way I started my moving company with just me and figuring everything out on my own, I wanted to do it the same way. So I literally started with the flip camera, turned the camera on, got back, did my course or did my video, edited the video, uploaded the video, extracted the audio, put that on the podcast, did all of that stuff. So when I brought in my first hire, the next time I went and did it, I recorded myself doing it and then said, here's how you do it. But what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take that video and create a written SOP from it, right? So just follow my instructions from the video, but now create one where there's a screenshot with an arrow that says click here, to where we can hire anyone, anywhere, at pretty much any skill level for certain things that could follow this. And that's how that person, who's still with me today, was able to elevate into higher positions doing different things and creating more value, right? So we want to elevate ourselves and we want to elevate others. So you could do this you can keep Google Docs, right? Keep Google Docs of them with a Google Sheet of a repository. It just shows all your different processes. Make sure it's searchable. Another program you could use is Notion, which is really great for that as well. Some of you might use that for your creative aspects. And then there's other programs like Trainual that are specifically for your SOPs, your processes, right? The key is you don't want to get caught up in the technology, right? It's like just get the stuff documented. And then from there, you can figure out what's the tool, what's the resource. You don't need to go spend money to do it. It's more about the habit to do it, right? So when you think about creating these SOPs, the first one you really need to create is the process of creating processes. So what does that assembly line look like? There's going to be something you do today, I can almost guarantee it, that while you're doing it, you could be like, I don't really need to be doing this. Either like right now, I need to get this off my plate, or I need to work towards being able to hire somebody to get this off my plate. And if we're able to document that process and write that down and create an SOP for it, right? Little by little, what we're doing is we're building a system to run our business, right? You want good people, absolutely. But you could have a bunch of good people and all those people think we're headed north, and they're going to end up in slightly different places. So if you want your business to have consistency and not have the headaches and the ball doesn't get dropped and things like that, then we want to create that consistency. You want everybody with the exact coordinates of where to go and what to do. So now you've got the system that runs the business. You've got great people that have a set of processes that run that system using those processes, right? And then when you want to improve something, when you want to change something, you pull up the process and what's broken with this? What's not working here? How do we improve this? Let's update it. Let's retrain our people and let's go from there. So as far as storing them, I would start with a Google Doc. Just get them documented, right? You can always clean them up later. My first processes were literally, I had some on the back of napkins. I had them on computer paper with stuff written. What's important is that the person who's doing the job knows how to do the job. And when it really hit for me, I don't know, 20 years ago, that I needed systems and processes was when I just one day realized I'm saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over, right? I'm training the same people on the same stuff over and over and over. It's like, I just need to document this, get it done the right way, hand it off, it'll save you a bunch of time. So, hope that serves you guys. Let's see here. Some of these questions are great. I'm gonna make sure that I think we got some good ones here that are gonna cover all of these. So I wanna move on to a question here. Doesn't say who it's from, but it says, because I'm a newer entrepreneur, I don't know how much time to allocate for things like marketing, sales, etc. How do I create my ideal calendar if I have nothing to base it on? Does anybody else have this? Let me see your hands. If anybody else have this struggle, like what do I do? How do I structure my day? How much time do I spend on marketing? What's next? What's the next priority? Okay, I see you guys. Hillary, I see you waving over there. Okay. So, a few things. In the course, there's a whole section on really creating these blocks of time. I personally structure my day, and I think about it as lifestyle first. You know, one of my messages has always been profit and thrive. Profit in your business and thrive in your life. Sometimes, you know, when we get into business, we just go all in and we think we're gonna just grind it out, and then one day we'll get to this place where we feel good about things, right? And so I believe that we need to kind of have that balance going forward and push ourselves and challenge ourselves to not just only focus on the business, but also elevate all areas of our life. So for me, I think about lifestyle first. I structure my days in three blocks, three big blocks. The first one is peace, right? Like in the morning, I want to wake up and I want to touch a piece of peace, right? Like I want my moments to be in my own space before anybody's up in the house so that I can meditate, so that I could journal, so I could get my mind right. And that's important to me, and I protect that, and I make sure that no matter what I've got going on, I at least access that for, you know, even if I've got so much going on and it's only 10 minutes, right? Versus, you know, normal times where it's an hour or an hour and a half, I make sure that I'm able to get to that place, because if I can't get to that place and I start my day in the opposite of peace, right? I'm sure you guys know that feeling too, then the whole day just feels chaotic. So I start with peace, and then from peace, I transition into progress, right? Progress. So the big chunk of the day, let's call it the work day. For me, it's about progress. And you said progress on what? Well, progress on, you know, the areas of my life that are important to me. Progress on not only my business and you know, financial, you know, wealth building, but my health, my family, right? My personal growth, my contribution, my fun and experiences, the things that I say are important to me. I want to make sure I'm making progress on those things during the day. Because if I'm making progress during the day, and some days, you know, some days feels like you hit 10 home runs, and some days it feels like you just struck out every single time, right? So it's not that every day is, you know, but if you look at it, you're usually making some kind of progress, right? And then from there, if I know I can make progress during the day, the later part of my day is about presence. It's about being present with my two little kids, with my wonderful wife, and being able to actually enjoy and be in the moment, that without this structure for myself, and this is what works for me, take it if it works for you, but without this acknowledgement of like peace, progress, presence, it's so easy to get lost in there's still more to do. There's still more to do. Let me keep this thing going until I, fall asleep at the computer. And I've had those days and I've done that. And sometimes there's seasons of your life where you've got to do that, right? But we've got to be very careful that that doesn't just become the way that we operate if it's also causing stress, if it's also not allowing us to be our best. So when we think about this question of like, how do I allocate time for things like marketing? Well, we've got to think about our calendar as that's the truth right there. I mean, we all have the same calendar, right? We've all got the same 24 hours in a day. We've all got the same 7 hours in a week. And that was my simple, but just very blunt realization when I looked at, wow, how are all these people doing so much in the world, right? How are people accomplishing so many things and we have the same amount of time? And it's like, well, it's not necessarily time management. It's more self-management in the time that we have. And we start with those structures. And then if you guys saw the course, each day I give a theme, right? Each day I give a theme. So for example, Mondays are my call days, right? I've got private clients, masterminds, things. Those are calls. So I kind of structure calls that day. Tuesdays, my team and operations day. I'm spending time with my team. Building what we're doing here with our Action Academy and getting students really to that next level, or our Edge program, our mastermind. Wednesdays usually I'm filming videos, I'm live, right? I've got some meetings. Thursdays has been for a long time campaign day. Say it like, I need to create something that we're gonna sell, right? If you wanna really launch your business, I would recommend you spend a full day working on campaigns. A campaign is, what's the mechanism that you're gonna sell something, right? So whether that's an ebook that you drive people to, and then that ebook maybe offers to schedule an appointment with them, whether that's a more complex funnel of kind of a launch sequence of, value video, and then a sales video, whether it's a webinar, whether it's a challenge, whatever your campaign is and how you're driving traffic to that. In this business, we've got to spend a good amount of time on that. One of my mentors in this space said, if you want to get your knowledge business to 5 million a year, you need 2 full days of campaigns a week, right? So think about how much time, when you talk about spending time on marketing, I'm not sure whose question this was, but it's one of the main things in this business, right? And if you're like, Louis, I don't like marketing, I don't want to deal with marketing, I would say then you've got to get someone to help you with that, right? You've got to get a consultant, or you've got to get a coach, or you've got to team up with somebody who could do that aspect for you. If you're like, I just love to train and coach, that's great. If you're like, I don't love to sell, we got to adopt, you've heard Dean say, right? Sales is service. You got to sell to serve. If you don't sell somebody into your program, you can't help them. Even if you've got the best stuff, you could help somebody break through their depression, right? You could help somebody get into shape. You could help them get their house tidied up and where you want it to go, or help get their business to the next level. If you don't sell them on that, you can't serve them, right? So think about, and I would highly recommend you guys go watch the course, the Entrepreneur's Action Plan, if this is resonating with you. It goes deeper into this. But it's all about what's your number one thing right now, right? What's the number one thing? And that's different at different stages. Maybe you're like, I got to get my new offer up and just get it done. I've got to get this new course built. I've got to put this retreat on, right? I've got to just be able to get out of my way to carve some space for me to do this work, right? Sometimes that's the number one thing, but focusing on what's that number one thing. There's a great book, Gary, what's his name? Anyways, the book's called The One Thing, right? You can look it up. It's called The One Thing. And it's the principle, the whole thing behind it is, what's the one thing that makes everything else easier or unnecessary, right? So sometimes we just have to really drill down because we feel like we got so many things to do and figure out what's that number one thing, right? And what is that today? What is that rate now? It might change next week. I like to set up quarterly objectives. I like to set up 90-day action plans so that I give myself space to work on, and I always choose 3 big objectives per quarter, right? Doesn't sound like a lot, but if they're big enough, right? If one of them's like launch this new program, put on this seminar, hire this assistant, right? And you have the space to do it, well, then it's about just creating blocks on the calendar every day, an hour a day, 2 hours a day, to where you're working on those objectives, right? So some of the things I like to see on my calendar are when I'm creating kind of an ideal week would be recurring meetings and emails. So what meetings do I have? Let me get those on the calendar right away. Then let me figure out when I'm going to check emails so that I'm not, reacting all day long when I hear ding, 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 right? We've got to take control of that and have scheduled time that we're in kind of response and reaction mode. Loose ends. Loose ends. When I really started to get serious about blocking in all my time and maximizing all the time that I use, I kind of filled up my schedule and I'm like, wait, I don't have time for call the DMV or pay this thing online or, random stuff that has to get done, but it just, doesn't feel like the most important thing. So scheduling a few loose ends blocks throughout the week really helps with that so that hey, all right, this thing just popped up. I don't have to deal with it right now. I've got a block. I could place it over there. And when I get to that block of time, I'll pick up that thing and I'll handle it. We need to make sure we got time for planning and delegation too as you build a team. Reviewing some reports and numbers. Your current objectives, we talked about that. Think time, right? Think time. You're in the knowledge business, and if you are so busy, so inundated with tasks and emails and messages and to-dos, and you're just in a tornado of overwhelm, you're not going to come back to center. You're not going to be able to produce your best work. You're not going to be able to strategically think about what the next moves are, right? And so for me, that's in the morning, right? I spend, for me, my journal is that's my strategy book, right? I mean, let me figure out what it is that I want. Let me figure out why I want it. What's holding me back? How do I get to that next level? What are the things I need to be focusing on, right? Let me get in touch with how I'm feeling and kind of identify if there's something there that's holding me back. So we need that time to think. And then, of course, we need personal, family, and some free time as well. So that's scheduling, right? That's scheduling. And the one thing I could tell you is if you haven't done this before, it's generally referred to as block time, right? It's widely taught as a productivity principle, and it's because it works. It's because it works. As an entrepreneur, you don't have someone telling you where to be and when to be there. So it's like, let's figure out what's important. Let's get it on the calendar, and just know the first week you do it, you'll probably fall off, right? I was trying to stick to this schedule. It didn't really work. It's about understanding yourself, your own energy levels, your focus levels. Do you have more energy to write and focus in the morning, or are you more of an afternoon person for that, right? And so I think separating your day between, being a creator and being the CEO and being coaching and kind of deciding what hat you're going to wear at different parts of the day really helps. One of the big reasons entrepreneurs get overwhelmed is because we just think about all the stuff we have to do. We got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do this. But the reality is that you're actually operating as more than one person, right? You're operating, even if it could go much deeper, but even if we just said, hey, you're the CEO of the business, right? You've got to look at it that way. You've got to, I don't care if you haven't made your first sale, you got to say, I'm the CEO of this business. I'm responsible for the results. I'm responsible for where we're going, right? But then you've also got to be the creator. And then you've also got to do the coaching. And then you're probably also your own administrative assistant. You're probably your own bookkeeper. So you've got all these different roles. And that's why I'm going back to the processes. When you start to separate that stuff out, you're like, oh, of course you're overwhelmed. You're doing the work of 5 to 10 people, right? And that's just at the beginning, and things get easier. And you've got to know that once you keep going forward, once you keep systematizing the business aspect, once you find the way that you flow best, right? Because who would love to be in flow more time in the day? Who, instead of overwhelm and fear and uncertainty? So I could share what works for me. Other people could share what works for them, but we're all different, right? We're all different. Some people are morning, some people are night, right? Some people like to work in a coffee shop with noise. Some people like absolute silence. So you've got to figure out what works for you. So allow this to be an exploration of your own, your own inner model of productivity, right? It's a journey, right? Of course, go jump in the course, right? Please do. I'd love to hear what you think about it. Read books on productivity. For me, that was when it all started, was because it just became overwhelming. Like, there's just so much to do. I remember the moment that it hit me, it's still in my head. I was in my moving company at a call center. We were there, and it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm looking at my emails, and I was just like, what do I do next, right? And it just felt like I was going from one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And it felt out of control. So it was like, I've got to get control over this. So I've literally been geeking out and obsessing over productivity for, I don't know, at least 15 years. And allow yourself to get in touch with what works for you and experiment with that. That's the best thing you could do, because when you start to try to rigidly follow one person's thing, it's a good start, but recognize we're all unique. We're all individuals that, we're just, again, different energy levels, different motivations. Some of you want to go to the office and hustle. Some of you want to sit on the balcony with a cup of coffee, and you got to do things your way, right? Do it your way. You guys feeling that? If you are, put it in the chat. Do it your way. Do it my way. Do it your way, right? All right, we got some more here. That's it. Do it your way, Angela. So cool. Thanks for all the comments, guys. I don't know if I'm as quick as keeping up with them as Dean, because they just come in so quick, but he does it. He reads them all. Good, guys. I'm glad this is helpful for you. So, Kayvon asked a question about motivating sales team. How do you develop intrinsic motivation so deep in your sales team's minds and hearts that they operate from a place of conviction and belief over commissions and transactions? Great question. So, and just to give you some context, I had a nationwide moving business. We had about 60 salespeople on the phones. We had another group that would go out in person. I also run sales here at Mastermind. So this is something that I'm very, very familiar with. And over the years, that's the thing, right? I think naturally we think that it's like the carrot and the stick when we want to motivate people, right? Like, do this or you're not going to get promoted. Do this or you're not going to get fired. Do this or you're not going to make any money. Or it's, hey, here's the commission. Keep reaching for it. Keep going for it. And those two have a place, but what I've found is there's really 3 missions that we need to be focused on, and we need them to buy into that. The first mission is the customer's mission. So if you're selling something, the salesperson has to buy in to, number one, sales is service. Like, if we don't sell them this, we can't help them. And this is how it helps them, right? So when they're on the phone, or they're in person, or they're on a Zoom, or they're in a chat, or they're in the back of the room at a seminar, whatever the modality is, if they start with the belief that this thing that we're selling is going to help this person, that right there alone creates that intrinsic motivation, right? But then it's like the second mission is the company's mission, right? Because it's like there's this one individual that we're trying to help, that we're trying to sell something to, but then there's the company's mission, right? And so when you could buy into the company's mission of like, hey, we're looking to change the world by giving people the tools, the resources, the training, the support, the community, so that they could go help other people and lift other people up. It's like, That's intrinsic motivation there. I mean, that's why I'm here, right? I'm here not for any other reason because of the impact. When I look at all your faces and I know everything you're trying to do and all the people you're trying to help, I look at the ripple effect of that, right? We want, as at Mastermind, we want to lift you up so that you can go lift more people up. I mean, that's how we change the world. So when we look at how to motivate people, you've got to get them to buy in to the company's mission. And then the third mission, the third part of that, it's kind of the trifecta, is what's their mission, right? What's in it for them? What do they want? What are they after? And it's not always money. It's not always money. So to Kayvon and anybody else that has sales team, have you talked to them? Have you found out, like, hey, what are you after in life? What's your vision? What do you want in 5 years, right? We used to help people discover what they wanted and then create little vision boards for them and put them right there at their desk. They didn't even know they were coming. We just kind of had these discovery meetings, we called them, and kind of figured out like what they're after and help them figure out what they're after, right? Because sometimes, and that's what's great about a community like this, I think most of you, that's the kind of work that you do. And if we could help them figure out what motivates them and help them connect the dot between that phone call they make, that Zoom that they're on, that interaction that they have, to not only, hey, you're helping this customer reach their mission, you're helping the company reach their mission, and it's helping you fulfill what it is you're after, right? I think that's the best way to really get them to be motivated. And I think part of that is the mindset. You know, I think as leaders, it's necessary that we all train our people on mindset. And I don't mean just, hey, let's talk about your mindset. It's more how to think about this, right? So if I'm working with a team, I want to know, like, hey, here's how to think about our business. Here's how to think about our customers. Here's how to think about our industry. Here's how to think about our competition. Here's how to think about the economy. Here's how to think about this marketplace, right? And so if you help them to see how you think of all this, that's when you get buy-in, right? When we don't get buy-in, it's when everybody's just on their own little micro missions trying to figure out what to do. And we want people in our company, it's not about brainwashing people to think how I think, but we want people on the same page, right? If there was someone here that didn't believe that helping others learn how to get into and scale their knowledge business is actually the thing that, I mean, for me right now in the world, it's the one place I could be that I know I can make the biggest impact. So it's like, I'm there, right? And if someone here doesn't believe in that and what we're trying to do, then they're not ever going to be a good fit. So we want to make sure that we kind of teach them how to think about their role, the company. And then the last part really is, this is commissions and transactions, he was asking. But a lot of it is excitement, right? When you think about sales, man, you got salespeople, like, you got to keep that energy up, right? You've got to make sure, like, if you've got a sales team and they're on calls all day, or they're calling leads, or they're, reaching out to people, they're on strategy sessions, like, you got to make sure you keep the music going, right? You got to make sure you do some stand-up, right? Daily. There we go. Get that energy up. Just like that, right? All right. I love this. Literally, we went from, I saw some people starting to slouch over, right? Teresa, I saw you, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're up. And so whoever is running the sales team, right? We got people at different levels here. Some of you are like, sales team, that's like beyond, where I'm at right now. And some of you've got a few few on the phones, a few doing Zoom calls. But we got to change up that music. I used to do something every day in my call center that was, we called it the 2 o'clock stretch. And every day at 2 o'clock, no matter what anybody was doing, we played a song by James Brown called I Feel Good. At 2 o'clock, it came on every single day. And the rule in the office was, and it was like 80 people in the office, no matter what you were doing, who you were with, if there was somebody in person, you had to stand up and do some kind of movement, some kind of stretch, right? Even if you're already on the phone, on the headset, while that song's going on, and you couldn't sit down for the whole song, right? Like things like that, like you gotta keep the excitement up. And the other part of that is we did spiffs and we did challenges. So when someone has a commission, that commission, because I'll work with business owners a lot, and they'll bring in their sales manager. They'll want to talk about how to, increase things. And they're like, well, we're going to think about raising the commission. And the thing with commission is, at first, it's exciting, it's sexy, it feels like I can make a lot of money. And then before long, it just becomes normal for them. It just becomes like what they're used to, and it doesn't really create much more excitement. So that's where spiffs come in. Right? Things like, hey, whoever makes 5 sales this week, I'm going to buy you lunch from your favorite restaurant at the end of the week, right? If the team as a unit, if you guys get 10 sales this week, we're going to do a little spin the wheel, and you're going to be able to win some prizes, right? So we used to have this, the spin the wheel. We've got a Planko game here that will have people play the Planko game and win some prizes. Right? Jeremy, our director of sales, he'll dress up like a game show host and do a whole game show. It's about keeping the energy and the excitement up, right? Making it a fun environment, and that's so important for sales, right? It's so important for any position that's redundant all day, that they're doing the same thing. Give them an opportunity, get that energy up, get that excitement up. So, Kevon, I hope that helps. What a great group. You guys really got the energy going here before. Pump me up a little bit too. Yeah. All right. Here's a great question here. So Cecilia said, how do you move forward when you feel stuck? What questions can I ask myself to figure out where and why I'm stuck? Has anybody in the last 30 days felt stuck here? Let me see a show of hands. In the last 7 days felt stuck? Today, have you felt stuck? I mean, look, our biggest, the thing holding us back the most is what we're looking at in the mirror, right? It's really, how do we get out of our own way? It's really what it comes down to, right? That's why mindset is such an important piece of business. I mean, it's like you got to have the mindset and you got to have the mechanics, right? It's both. And so, first thing I would say, Cecilia, is you got to get clarity on what you want. Number one, right? What are you after, right? And I like to break it down. What are you after in your business? What are you after in your finances? Because it's separate things, right? The business creates the money, but then once you get the money, what are you going to do with investments and building wealth and things like that? What about your relationships? What do you want there? What do you want in your own personal growth? What do you want in your health? What do you want in your free time and fun and your experiences? How about contribution? How do you want to contribute? Right? So if you could get clear in all these areas of your life, right? Which I believe is so important. So important. I hit a point, in my business where I was ultra successful, and, by the technical term of success, right? In financial terms. And man, I felt empty and depressed and down and out. And my first coach at the time said, Louis, you've done a great job of building your business and a terrible job of building your life. And that's when I started to incorporate all these areas and push myself and force myself to take those up with me, right? Because my default was just like, go, business, go, go, go. And it wasn't serving me, right? I figured if I did that, at some point, someday, everything would just fall into place. And it didn't until I put the intention behind it. So the first thing I would say is like, get clear on what you want and why, and if you, and that could change, right? You might have done something in January, the beginning of the year. Well, here's the things that I want, right? here's what I should do. Maybe you did 7 levels deep with Dean, and you kind of, why? And that's great. Just make sure that that is crystal clear at all times, right? If you've got to revisit it, right? There's times where I haven't been sure. Like Dean said, I'm like, what do I do now? Like what's my next thing? And when there's times where I don't know what I want or what I want to do, because we all have those seasons in our life, we all have those transitional moments, I'll sit down for a couple of weeks, and every morning I'm just asking the same questions. I'm writing about it, I'm asking the same questions. What do I want? Why? One day you look at it this angle, another day you look at it that angle. And from there, we all know that, right? But what I found in a moment where I was stuck is I go deep on this stuff. Like when I'm trying, I try to like get in my mind and like figure out all the, little pathways that are happening and why am I thinking this way? Why am I acting this way? Why am I feeling this way? Why are these emotions coming up? And what I found was there's something that I call it the stress cycle. And it's fear and resistance. And so you might have the fear of my video is not going to be good enough. People aren't going to watch this. I might not I'm scheduled to be filming on Saturday, and I don't know if I'm going to have the energy on Saturday. What if I don't feel good? Like some days I feel good, some days I don't feel good, right? What if I don't know what to say? What if I don't get my presentation done in time, right? There's that fear. And so the fear sometimes can be like, well, just go do the thing. But then you hit the resistance. You're like, I don't want to do the thing because it might not be that good. So you're like, the video, it's hard, it's challenging. I feel stuck. I don't know what to do. I tried that before. And so when you get in this cycle of fear and resistance, it leads to avoidance. And when you get trapped in that place where I was at one point, it's like, man, it's a vicious cycle, right? Because the fear is like, hey, no, just go do it. But then the resistance is like, no, I don't really want to do it. And so maybe that serves you. Maybe you feel that same thing. Maybe you don't. But what I did was I flipped it. I said, okay, what's the opposite of fear and resistance? And I call this one the joy cycle, and it's love and acceptance. So it's the thing that I'm fearing, how could I love it? How could I love the process? How could I love the collaborators? How could I love my life and the way that I get to do this, right? Because it's like how we're looking at something, the meaning we're giving to it, right? Well, are we fearing it or can we love it? And if we could just kind of transition that, for me, I always try to take one thing out and replace it with something else. And then the resistance, if there's just acceptance with that, let me just accept where I'm at. Let me just accept what's going on right now. Let me accept how things are unfolding. Let me accept the fact that I'm not prepared, right? That I don't have the presentation done, but I'm going to show up and I'm going to do the best that I can, and I'm going to accept that. I'm going to accept myself and do the best that I can, right? And so to me, that leads to joy, and that leads to advancement, right? So you've got the fear and the resistance. That's leading to avoidance, right? So in Cecilia's terms, feeling stuck. And then you've got the love and acceptance. Imagine if you could operate from love and acceptance every day and just advance and move forward. Oh, but what if this? I'm going to love that process anyways. But I don't know if I could really do this. I don't really want it. I'm going to accept it, and I'm not going to resist it, right? I feel like I should stay and wait. I'm not going to avoid this. I'm going to advance, and I'm going to move forward. So I think that could really help. And the last one is just like journal, right? Like know thyself. Like you've got to get clear on what you want. So many people are spending so much time listening to others on social and what they say and what they tell you should do. And the reality is your soul knows what you want. And the only way to access that is to get clear on it. Ask the questions, right? Like literally ask the questions. Why do I feel stuck? What is it about this situation that I don't like? Why do I keep avoiding the meeting with that person? Right? It's like we got to look at it and we've got to believe that sometimes when you're stuck, it could be a good thing, right? Sometimes when you're stuck, it could be a sign that like the thing that you're trying to advance towards that you think is what you're after is not the thing for you. So by getting clear on what you want, by getting clear on why you want it, by recognizing, am I operating out of fear and resistance, or am I operating out of love and acceptance? Am I moving towards stuff or am I moving away from it? You start to pick it apart and you find out that one thing that you're like, oh, okay, and you look for the leverage point, right? What's that one lever that I could pull that'll get me moving forward? You might not have all the answers, but you got to move forward, right? You got to gain that momentum. Action precedes motivation. If you're not feeling motivated, start moving towards something, start accomplishing little things, and the motivation will build. All right. Andrea asked, you guys enjoying this? Is this good? Or is this how are we doing today? You guys all right? All right, cool. So you guys, just some great questions here. And if we got some time at the end, I'll kind of come in here. Thanks, guys. I love all the love here. Andrea asked, we all learn by our mistakes. What mistake would you embrace that gave you a valuable lesson? Oh man, where do you start? You know, it's like, it's all about mistakes. Like I'm teaching my daughter that right now. She's 4, and it's like, it's okay that you made a mistake, right? I'm not mad at you. I want you to recognize that that's a mistake. And when you make a mistake, like you get a choice on how you correct that mistake, how you learn from that mistake, how you make things right from that mistake. And man, I could sit here and list so many mistakes and so many failures over the years. But I don't dwell on it. I really don't. I move past it. What's in the past is in the past. You know, focus on where I'm headed, kind of have some type of vision, right? You never know. Some type of vision on where you're going. And then just operate from the present. And I do that from the kind of philosophy of just action and acceptance, right? So whenever anything comes up, whenever there's any challenge, I just look at it like, is there something I could do about this, right? It's like, okay, but am I willing to do that thing, right? There might be something you could do, but you're like, I'm not going to do that, okay? So if there's something you could do and you're willing to do it, do it. Take the action. And if there's something that you're not willing to do, or there's not anything you can do about it, then you just got to accept it. And I know that that's hard for a lot of people, and I think years ago that was hard for me too. But, you know, it's the desire to stop wrestling with yourself and get out of your own way, right? And exploring what works for you and how to navigate that. But it goes back to like what's within your control and what's outside of your control. You know, there's so much. I mean, look, the way the world is, there's so much we could be upset about, fearful about. You know, things can feel unjust. And I'm not saying there aren't real things happening and there aren't bad things happening. But I just know I don't want to carry it all with me all day long. So action or acceptance, you know, and not to oversimplify it, right? That acceptance process, that takes a little bit of time. That takes a little bit of time and a little bit of self-work and a little bit of, you know, daily reminders. It's like the thing pops up, it bothers you. Okay, all right, I get it. You might have to release it 50, 100 times a day. But when we think about the mistakes, action and acceptance, I also look at it like life is happening for me, right? We've heard Tony talk about this. It's like life's not happening to you. When I first heard him say this, I was like, oh my God, that's so good. It's so good because our you know, I think a lot of our internal, by default way of thinking could be like, why is this happening to me? Why is it, oh, I got to deal with this. Oh, they said that and I got to, oh. And there's been so many mistakes that I've made, so many failures. And you know what? Maybe it's just over time and watching what happens after those things that at the moment feel like it's the end of the world, then I'm like, actually, it led me to this. Actually, that led me to that. It's like I truly believe that life is happening for me. So when I'm faced with these, mistakes or these failures or these conundrums of what do I do, it's like, stay patient, but be persistent, move through it, and trust that life is truly happening for you, right? We can't always see the next step. We might be so fixated on this one thing that we want, right? That's why we gotta be a little flexible with our vision too. This one thing that we want that we don't recognize that we're kind of being guided in a different and a better path, right? It's like, who would have thought, last year when I was doing a seminar for moving company owners, and at the end I just felt like, man, I don't know that I really want to continue to do this anymore. And it felt like, oh my God, what do I do, right? And now look, I'm here, I'm at Mastermind, I'm working with Dean every day. I mean, it's incredible, right? So you don't really, at the time when we're going through the stuff, it's just that belief that, hey, this thing that I'm going through, it's actually an opportunity to grow, right? That's it. That's it. I mean, life is all about, for me, it's all about legacy, and legacy is about growth and contribution. How much can I grow as an individual, and how much can I give back and contribute to others? And because the more we could grow, the more of life we can handle, and it doesn't feel so hard. The more we could influence others. I can influence my kids, right, to different ways. But if I don't grow, if I don't hit mistakes, if I don't have failures, if I don't look to adapt, then, we don't really make that much of an impact. So, but when you do make the mistakes, I also would say zoom out. Sometimes we get so, like right there in it. And if we just kind of zoom out, like I go all the way out, right? If I don't know, how many of you have read Untethered Soul by Michael Singer in here? But it's, it says we're just a little being floating around on this planet in the middle of nowhere, right? And it's like, oh, okay, right? This little thing's not such a big deal. It's gonna be okay, right? And from there, and this goes back to like the moving days, because in moving, I gotta tell you, it's one of the most stressful things somebody does in their life. So funeral, divorce, moving, statistically, like it's stressful. Those of you that have moved, there's a lot that goes on around that causes stress. And, when you're moving, the amount of people that we were moving, it's things happen, right? You scratched my dresser, the guys were late, there's things that happen. And so one of the core principles that we put in place earlier was make it right with others, and then correct it internally. And I think it's the same thing with any mistake that you make. If there's somebody else involved, make it right with them. If you realize you made the mistake, make it right with them, and then correct it internally, right? So if it's the business, how do we make sure that doesn't happen again? If it's you, it's like, how do I not say that type of thing to that person? Or how do I, whatever that might be, right? Make it right with others, and then correct it internally. So I think that's a really great way to learn from the mistakes. And guess what? You're here, you're putting your knowledge business together, or you're scaling your knowledge business. Don't be afraid to fail, and fail fast, right? The quickest way that we could figure out if we're on the right path or not on the right path is to make a decision, move forward, and then learn from it. It's so easy to stay stuck on the fence and, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? I mean, most of the time it's a coin toss. Who knows? Make the decision, move forward, you'll learn, and you'll backtrack, you'll figure it out. I would say everything that I've taught business owners, or I've been able to share with others, it all probably stems from mistakes, and all probably stems from failures, right? It doesn't really stem from success, it stems from the problems, right? It's like you make your mess your mission, right? It's like the things you've gone through. Who's gone through some stuff in here that you're trying to help other people not go through? I just want to see. Okay, so use that as an opportunity and debrief those mistakes. Okay, what happened here? How could I turn this into a lesson? How could I turn this into a content? How could I turn this into a TikTok, right? Think about it that way. It's all happening for you. Another question here, I don't have a name, but I got the question, says, how do you deal with missing your own targets and still have the energy and gumption to strive for progression. I love that. So who's got some goals in here right now? Who's got some set goals written down? Just you show of hands. Okay. So if we think about it, I look at it like business is a game. It's a game. It's my sport of choice, right? I've been in business since I'm 19, so it's just the thing that I look at. And sometimes we could take it, sometimes it feels life or death, right? Sometimes it feels, you know, when I started, my back was against the wall. I didn't know what else I was gonna do. I didn't go to college, right? My family didn't have money. Like, what was I gonna do? It's like I had to make it happen. And so I was operating out of this fight or flight, I mean, really, for quite a long time. Until I recognized that wasn't helpful at all. And it just brought me to a place where I'm like, you know what? The stakes are high, but doesn't mean you can't treat it like a game. And if you think about professional baseball players, the best in the world, millions and millions of dollars a year they get paid to go stand at the plate and hit the ball 30% of the time. Is that crazy or what? The best in the world, 30% of the time, they're hitting the ball. And so it's the same thing. Like, you're not going to hit your targets 100% of the time. We put them there. It's good to have them, right? It's good to have that North Star to strive for. It's good to have deadlines, right? But I think if we let not hitting our targets deflate us, we're just setting ourselves up for failure, right? And failure is not necessarily always a situation as much as it is a mindset. And we could put ourselves in that pattern and we start losing confidence and we start, you know, that downward spiral. But instead, if we look at it like this is a game, I'm going to get really good at this game because I want to be good at it, right? And some days I win, some days I lose. I need to train, I need to practice, I need to get better. The more hours I put in, the better I'm gonna get at it, right? If you wanna be a great speaker, speak more, do more videos, get on stages where you can, get on podcasts where you can, practice, get good. My first course, when I launched it, I started putting out videos in January of that year, 2017, and launched the course by May. And when I launched the course, I was like, I'm gonna sell 500 copies of this course, right? It was $1997, it was $2,000 6-week online course. And I'm like, I'm gonna sell 500 of them. I'm gonna make $1 million. And that was my target. I think I sold 17, right? So I didn't hit the target, but I was like, all right, but I gotta keep going. Right? Later that year, I had my first seminar, right? I'm like, they're like, how many people are gonna show up? I'm like, honestly, I have no idea. I could be 20, it could be 200, I really don't know, right? 57 people, okay, right? 57 people, I sold coaching program at that event, right? Not as many as I thought I was gonna sell. And, you know, 2 years later, then, you know, $1 million in launches, 500 people at the seminars. What I've come to realize for me, and this doesn't work for everybody, is I set the targets to make myself work that hard, right? If you're trying to make $5 million, but you've got a $500,000 strategy, it's not gonna work. It's more about the mindset and the strategy that you put into it for me, and creating a high target that if I don't hit, if you shoot for the stars and land on the moon, right? We've all heard that. That's how I take it, right? So whenever I get too literal on these are the exact targets, it just stresses me out. And then I also, really, we talked about this before, but I tie it all back to legacy. You know, I look at it like it starts with your mission. What are you after? Why are you after? What do you want it, right? And then there's some things in your personal life, there's some things in your business, and it all leads to legacy. How much can you grow? How much can you contribute, right? I think when we look back on our life, that's what we're going to want to be able to give back, right? When I think about the wisdom I want to give to my grandkids, it's like I'm only going to be able to give that wisdom, not from watching TikTok all day long, but from doing stuff and going through things and developing and growing as an individual. And the only way we grow is we hit failure. If you succeeded at every single thing that you did always, how I view it is we'd be weak. And then when something real was in front of us, we wouldn't be able to handle it. And I've heard so many stories of so many of you, and I know you have been through some real shit, right? Excuse my language, but like you've been through real stuff in your life. And we can't, back down and cower and lose our confidence over missing some targets, right? So if you didn't get them this time, you'll get them next time. Keep going. You look at all the success stories in history, and it's like they started off. I was listening to a book this morning about. There was a story about Lin-Manuel. What's his name? The guy who did Hamilton, right? And he did his first play, and it took 7 years to get that play to Broadway, and then it took another 7 years to get it kind of mainstream and to get successful. And that was before Hamilton ever came out. So there's a lot of work that people do in the background. There are no overnight successes, right? It's the work that you're putting in, the amount of time that you're putting in. I used to do this with people are like, what about the competition? I put the blinders on. Right? Maybe take a look once in a while. What are people doing? Okay, cool. Now I'm going to put the blinders on, and I'm going to focus on what I need to do and just continue to move forward. And so that's how I deal with missing targets, right? Don't beat yourself up, guys, right? It's like you want to be your inner coach and not the inner critic, right? It's like it's one thing, I think all of us could agree at some point we all could probably use a little kick in the ass to get going. But what we don't need to beat ourselves up, right? And there's a difference, right? It's the critic and it's the coach. So you're not hitting targets. Readjust, right? Come back, re-strategize. What went wrong? How do we improve this? Like, this is how great businesses are built. Not because they just came out the gate and every strategy was a winning strategy. It's because they failed, they didn't hit targets, they readjusted, they changed. So, we had a lot of people saying, Louis, would you mentor me? And I would love to mentor all of you guys. I would love, if I could share anything. Hopefully today served you. Hopefully you got something out of this today and our time was well worth it for you. But I would love to invite those of you that really want to kind of come to that next level and have the support of our team over here at the Action Academy here at Mastermind. It's a program where we kind of really take you by the hand and guide you through everything that you need to do, and we give you the team and the support and the live daily consultations with our expert advisors. It's just an incredible program that I'm here putting together with Dean and Tony and the rest of the team here at Mastermind. And so that's what I'm doing. That's my main focus is let's create the best program in the world that we could get behind that will give someone who really wants to break into this industry or take their current business and take it to that next level and give them that opportunity and give them everything that they need because, I know going through this, it's not as easy as, hey, buy a course, do this stuff, and you'll be successful, right? You need the support. You need the community. You need the step-by-step tactics. You need someone that you could, Shay, here's my copy. Could we take a look at this together? It's like what we do in some of these live sessions. Like we'll pull people's stuff up. We'll take a look at their copy, help them adjust it, or help them build out their funnel, or kind of role play their sales call with them. So if it's something that might be interested to you, I think we could put a link down below. You could schedule a call with somebody on our team. They'll talk to you about it. Make sure it's a good fit for you, good fit for us. It's definitely not a high-pressure sales call by any means. It's totally to make sure that we find the right people to get them in this program. So I think it's TAAstrategycall.com. So definitely check that out. And don't forget the Entrepreneur's Action Plan. It is in mastermind.com. If you haven't seen that already, if today you got a few nuggets out of today, if anything here served you today, please go watch that. It's in there. I'd love to hear how that was. I'd love to hear from all of you guys and see your journey, see what you're going on, who you're trying to serve, who you're trying to help, what difference are you trying to make in the world, and how can we help you do that here at Mastermind? That's what we're all about. You know, we talked about what's that mission, right? What's the customer's mission? I want to know your mission. What's the company's mission? And then what's everybody here's mission, right? The whole team here at Mastermind, like I got to tell you, it is absolutely incredible to be a part of such an amazing team. I don't know. I think it's just Dean and Tony have a magnet that just magnetize like the most heartfelt, intelligent, just in certain core competencies, brilliant people to be able to help get more of your messages out there and help serve more people. So hope this served you. If anybody's got any questions or anybody's got something in the chat, we got a few more minutes here. If you've already asked it, it's already scrolled up. So if you got something, otherwise we will wrap it up here in a few. But I'd love to see in the chat, how was today for you guys? What were some takeaways that you got here today? Was there one thing that kind of stuck out to you? Time blocks, Ed. Okay. Tina, you're welcome. Lifestyle blocks. Great. Happy Easter to you as well. Block out times. Yep. We got to take control of that time, guys. Peace, progress, presence. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. It's so wonderful to see all your faces. Carissa, I see that energy up there. Valentine, I see that energy. Krishan, I see it. Justina, Donna, Glenda, good to see everybody. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for being here in this inner circle. If you guys also haven't been in Gigi lately, I got to tell you, the AI assistant that we've got here is absolutely incredible. And every day we're making new adjustments to it. They're adding stuff. They're literally, Gigi's starting to think and act and speak like Dean and Tony. If you're working on copy, if you're working on anything in your business, go in there, check out Gigi, spend some time, move forward in everything that you do. Until I see you guys next time, profit in your business, thrive in your life. Thanks, guys.
To the groove and the light that flickers. We get lost in the crowd, it's getting thicker.